Is set to review our sovereign rating tomorrow. It is the final major credit rating agency to rate South Africa on investment grade. A full downgrade to junk status could see South Africa evicted from the World Government Bond Index, which could trigger a sell-off of bonds which we use to raise debt. To discuss, we're joined on the line by investor Peter Attard Montalto, Head of Capital Markets Research at Intellidex. Peter, thank you for joining us. So you've called the medium-term budget policy statement a car crash. Let's start there. Why?
Good evening. Well, basically, it's a completely unsustainable path that can't actually happen. Having this sort of debt trajectory simply would eventually be stopped by the markets further down the line after a Moody's downgrade, after crowding out private sector debt, having a bigger impact on growth as well. And so something has to give. Is basically what the budget is saying. But the core of the budget problem here is that Treasury didn't want to do this. They wanted to have cuts agreed by Cabinet, but were blocked from doing so by the complete lack of political will to be able to see them through.
So basically we didn't go far enough, and that's what the finance minister said. He suspects the rating agency thinks we didn't go far enough in terms of cutting costs.
So there was about 50 billion rand taken out of expenditure in the coming 2 years. Investors expecting closer to 80 to 90 billion. And that basically is completely inadequate to stabilize debt to GDP. And the big choice now for everyone, for agencies, for South Africans, for investors, is what actually happens between now and February in terms of finding the political will to force through much, much larger expenditure cuts. The political noises coming out, so they want to social compact this with the unions. I think that's actually completely impossible. The unions want more spending. They're not going to agree to less spending and then less spending targeting their members. So I think that's a complete impossibility. We'll see a little bit of trimming around the edge, but I think nothing fundamentally changing through to the February budget.
Well, I mean, this is often cited as a problem that you have different competing economic philosophies in South Africa. One says cut the fat. The other says save jobs, spend, keep SOEs in state hands. Is it possible to get over that kind of political will clash, I guess?
Well, it's completely not. Exactly, that's the point. You have to choose a side, and that's ultimately down to leadership. And at the moment, there's no ability to choose a side on this. And we saw that with the Tito paper as well. There's a complete contest between micro versus macro. The Tito paper is all about microeconomic reforms to drive growth, to really fundamentally shift the risk-reward balance for business and get growth that way. Whereas the left want more spending and lower rates, basically, which is not going to sustainably kickstart the economy. And you basically can't reconcile these two. And I think it's really a myth that somehow you can socially compact this to find some middle ground.
Okay, so what do you expect from Moodys tomorrow?
That's a really tough call because Moodys is very far off-piste here. They basically have given a huge amount of benefit of the doubt to South Africa and highlighted underlying rating strengths, including the structure of the debt, institutions, etc. So I think we do get a report tomorrow evening, but it may well say very little and keep the rating unchanged. Pending a trip they're expected to go to South Africa in the middle of November. The other alternative, which is the second and most likely then, is that they put it on negative outlook, waiting for more details in the budget to see if political capital is deployed for spending cuts.
And if we get that pass, so you're saying we could avoid a full downgrade. If we get that pass, then what happens? Could we fix things by next year and get that investment dollar flowing in again?
Well, a full outright downgrade is possible. Lucy has done that before, the analyst, to other smaller African countries, but it's unlikely in this case, given how risk-averse Moody's has been in the past. But no, it will all come down then to can you make that political choice, choose that philosophy of macro versus micro policy by the time of February, and that's where I'm very doubtful. And as a result, I think Moody's downgrade is inevitable. It's just a question of timing, but may take slightly longer than happening right now.
All right, so South Africa has to pick a side, an economic path. The view of Peter Attard Montalto, live on the line from London. He's from Intellidex.